Well, in the current constitution, if the factor of population is used in resource distribution, it has to be 45%. As we are speaking now, it is at 76%. And they have not brought on board anything to do with land.
Okay.
All of us, unfortunately, we are not from the city. All of us, we are not from the Mlima Kenya. Some of us, we come from the periphery of this country, and we've been there for ages. So appreciating the fair distribution of resources, a parameter must come up. We cannot use population as the sole parameter in distribution of resources.
Okay.
80% of Kenyan landmass is in northern Kenya. I was waiting for a policy from the current government when they want to improve and invest in that vast land, because it's a resource of this country. That's the list I was expecting from them. But if you will tell me today, you will go back to population. We are minorities. Some of us are minorities in this country.
Okay.
And this is not by choice. This is a maternal accident. So what will be the fate of the minority communities of this country if we will go by the population alone? That is why we are saying, bring on board the land question.
Okay.
We are congested here in Kiambu and in Nairobi due to lack of land. We have plenty of it.
Yes.
Why can the same land, why can the government invest in that vast land to bring value to areas where there is scarcity of land? So I mean,
Mashua, you'd know best. I mean, you come from the region, but let's just also look at this from a layman's perspective, for lack of a better word, because the argument, yes, is if you bring population, you're going to hurt the minority. But then again, the biggest question that has ever lingered in people's mind is that you are a small number of people living in a large mass of land. Vis-a-vis, for example, when you go to Kiambu that you've talked about, you have numerous people in abject poverty in that place. Would it therefore not make sense to allocate more resources? Because I believe resources follow functions. How would you answer to somebody who views it from that perspective?
Well, my concern is be majority, be minority. At the end of the day, you are Kenyan.
Yes.
And in the face of this constitution, we are equal. You can't be a better person by becoming somebody from Lima, Kenya, and a lesser person by becoming from the coast region or the northern Kenya. Where is the fairness in terms of resource allocation? We have two portions here. Of that envelope. 15% goes to the county. 85% is the national government. Where does this 85 go? And as we are speaking now, in terms of social amenities, was developed much when Kenyatta was the president. You cannot compare access to social amenities in those areas compared to in high potential areas.
Okay.
So what I'm looking at is a fair distribution of resources, regardless of we are the majority or we are the minority.
All right, I'll come back with you. I'll come back to you on that point. Yes. Okay. You just want to come in on the
I wanted to make the intervention. The biggest fallacy of the one man, one vote, one shilling. Is that it is blaming the victim. You have to look at the basic the demographic factors. What is the mortality, child mortality rates in ASAL areas compared to the other areas? They're higher there because of lack of those social amenities Mheshimiwa is talking about. So that already affects our population. Two, even areas like Northeastern now, before you get an ID, maybe our other areas are a bit better. Before you get your ID, although I was shocked the other day, they seem to be starting even for Turkana. Before you get your ID, you must be vetted. That process of vetting was basically to deny people the right to be identified as Kenyans. And we have statistics to prove that.
Well, looking at it, I mean, if you look at what pundits and experts say, they say both sides of this conversation present valid points for which are open to different interpretations. But when you're looking at an argument, because we can't specifically base it on population, because say, for example, the coast region, when you're looking at the tax revenue that they contribute, it's more as compared to even the Mount Kenya region. But then again, for the ESL regions that you're talking about, there is also a factor that comes here in terms of accountability for the big chunk of the resources that have always been pumped into that region. How would you answer to that? Because I believe the target here is the ESL regions in as much as people are not talking about it. Let me come with you, Ariel.
Are we still, do you still have Section 204 of the Constitution in context? As I earlier put, that the Constitution recognizes, appreciates that this country is at 2 levels of development.
Yes.
The purpose and the essence of having Section 204 is to bring at par those who have been marginalized, those who are left behind, to be at par with the other Kenyans.
Yeah.
So if we will focus today on the same Kenyans who were developed 50 years ago, right? And then say, let's come and argue today on 1 shilling, 1 vote, 1 person, 1 man. We have to put into context this, that 1, we are already the marginalized team.
Yeah.
2, you have to come up with a new formula to bring us, because we have not benefited from equalization fund.
Yeah.
It only happened once, twice, funds was allocated. It was supposed to be continuously for 20 years. We have lost the years and we have lost the resources again. So nothing in terms of bringing at par has been achieved as we are speaking currently. So we cannot again support further marginalization by supporting 1 man, 1 vote.
Okay, Wario, let's try and track this progress, and maybe juxtapose the two. You've talked of you not benefiting from the equalization fund. Yes, I'm just coming to you, Speaker. And the issue, on the other hand, is that devolution came into play well over a decade ago. And this was part of that reason, to see to it that the marginalized regions could also benefit by themselves, having those governments formed and the devolved governments working for them. You've been a legislator before. My question is, where is that sort of accountability in terms of having the devolved governments 13 years, 14 years down the line to see to it, okay, despite us not gaining from this, this is what the counties have done for us? Because year in, year out, you're still the same region that come with a conversation of flood and drought preparedness, asking for it to be declared a national disaster so that mobilization can be done. Where is the accountability for the resources that you have to see to it that maybe when this conversation is not had, we don't single-handedly see it from a perspective of a marginalized community?
Alan, I will be the happiest to get the accountability of the 85%, because we are talking here of 15% which goes to the county.
Yeah.
The high independent institution which suppose with the role to oversight and see the accountability of those resources. But what I'm saying, we have 15%, we have 85%.
Okay.
Have you done a desk review to find out, in terms of allocation, what does Nairobi get and what does Tana River get?
Okay.
So still, with even having county devolution in place, that the high potential, the so-called high potential counties get more money than low potential counties. The marginalization is still there, the suffering is still there. So once you ask me about accountability, which is a very good thing, but we could have started accountability with the 85%, which remains with the national government. And this is the role of the independent institution. We have EACC, we have the CIDs. In case of misappropriation, we are defending nobody.
Okay.
Be that person from Northern or from the high potential counties.
All right.
We are not defending anybody here.
Okay, you wanted to come in here?
Yes, just before I came, I looked at the last 4 years allocation.
Yeah.
Believe you me, the lowest in terms of percentage per the total quantum is Lamu at 0.8%.
Yeah.
That is what we are representing. The highest, which is crying, is Nairobi City County Government at 5.7%. Then you have now these ones at 3%, about 6 of them. You have the majority now at about 2%, 17 of them. And you have the ones that between 1 and 2%, 12 of them. And in each category, you'll find a high potential area, you'll find
The low
a
potential.
low potential area. So that's why, to some extent, because this formula was a compromise. For those ones of us who are in Naivasha trying to craft this constitutional dispensation, this was a compromise that we kept even the land area so that we don't appear like greedy. And so we are saying cap also the population.
Okay.
So that you have now, you are talking about how to manage the majority vis-a-vis the minority.
Yeah.
So that's why, to me, this conversation is good. So I can demonstrate to you that actually it is not true, and that's why I call it a fallacy.
Yeah.
This other side of the debate is a fallacy in the sense that it is not entirely correct to say so. Two, as Mheshimiwa is saying, Equalization Fund Article 204 speaks to the historical injustices, marginalization, that for all those years of our independence, on deliberate policy, including the famous paper we are talking about, including the other policies, including the injection of capital to what you call cash crops, which was not happening in our areas. So when you talk about why do we have droughts and famines, my friend, it's our environment.
Yeah.
So now, what are you telling us when you have floods ravaging in Nairobi City? Before climate change became a fad, we're experiencing it. And for those ones of us who are students of development, you'll appreciate that these droughts and famine cycles have been moving from 10 years, 7, 5, now it is almost like every 3 years. Because fragility of the environment, of the lands we occupy. It has nothing to do with us.
All right. Well,
maybe you may wish to ask the gods.
Fair point. Well, as I give both of you this opportunity just to give you closing remarks on the same, let me come to you, Wari. I mean, Speaker says it's a fallacy sort of argument from the other side pushing for this formula, but it's a negotiation. So something has to give at the end of the day. What would you want, or what sort of conversation would make sense to you if this was opened to a roundtable debate, so that both sides see to it that, okay, maybe we can work with this?
Well, one I'm disturbed, Alan. One, because of institutionalized marginalization. My hope and expectation after passing the 2010 Constitution is that, yes, now we are out of it and our issues is going to be addressed. And the Constitution attempted to address our issues. For Kenyans to appreciate our background, Alan, as pastoralists today, and I just say the word institutionalized marginalization. I want to share with you some few policies. One, look at the education policy. The education policy, unfortunately, the pastoralist child whose life and livelihood is determined by the environmental condition he lives in sits an exam with people with permanent settlement here. Look at the curriculum of our education. Bwana Tumbo mwenye shamba akapanda viazi, akalima akakuta he almasi, lolo bahati. This is a kid in Mandera, in Tana River. Don't you have a camel? Don't you have a goat? Why can that form the basis of curriculum to educate this child? This child have not found viazi one day throughout his life. Is that policy fair to the pastoralist child? Go to the land policy. It recognizes town planning and agriculture as the sole land ownership systems. Is this policy fair to the pastoralist fraternity? go to livestock trade. You are not allowed to move livestock at night.
Okay, okay, okay.
In conclusion, Alan, what I want fair distribution of resources.
Yeah.
I want, why I'm so disturbed when His Excellency, the Deputy President, said what he said, appreciating his position. This fella can easily influence policy.
Yeah.
You are elected by Kenyans from all corners of this country.
Okay.
You can't afford to reduce yourself to a corner and say, I associate with myself, I am a believer, and it can't go that way.
All right. Okay. Speaker,
Yes.
another 30 seconds. What is fair?
30 seconds to debate this is not
Just
enough.
a closing remarks. I know, but to you, what is fair?
I want to look at it in the positive manner.
Yeah.
If our agricultural productivity, assuming that's what generates the GDP of our country,
Yeah.
is based on 80% of our land mass, the debate should be, how do we make sure that the allocations to equalization fund are more,
Yeah.
so that we develop the infrastructure?
Yeah.
Because the infrastructure is laying the public good so that private investors can be able to move on. They can't do it when the public good is not already there.
Okay.
How do we ensure that these ASA lands, the 80%, are actually put into production so that they can also make their fair contribution to the 20%, in addition to the 20%? That will be four times of what we are talking about today.
Okay.
That should be the narrative we should be talking about now.
All right.
And in the meantime, make sure that the formula we are using is based on equity.
All right.
Yes.
Well, you've heard it right there from the two gentlemen, Ekwe Ethuro, the former Speaker of the Senate, and Wario Ale, the former legislator and Member of Parliament for Buda constituency, asking for nothing but fairness. But also to add on to that, they've said this conversation should be taken away from the Deputy President because it takes away from the importance of what is actually being discussed at the moment. We take a short break. We'll be back with some sports news before we wrap it up.